Welcome to Critical Health News' weekly video Bright Bite with pharmacist Ben Fuchs. Ben, we've been getting a couple emails from folks with various concerns regarding diets. One in particular that I'm really interested to find out more about is oatmeal. We've been hearing from people saying, I thought oatmeal was good for me. One guy's actually saying, I'm eating gluten-free oatmeal.
Gluten-free oatmeal?
Yeah.
Here's the thing about gluten and oatmeal and grains in general. Well, there's a few things, but the most important thing, oatmeal being a grain, wheat, corn, barley, etc. The most important thing about grains is grains are seeds, right? And seeds don't want to be eaten. Nature doesn't want its seeds eaten. Seeds are supposed to grow. If you eat them, they don't grow. So it doesn't serve the plant to have its seeds being eaten. That being said, seeds have some good nutrients in them, so human beings, especially calories, human beings want to eat seeds. So we developed a whole culture around grains, around eating seeds. Number one, they're a cheap source of carbohydrates, they're easy to farm, relatively easy to farm, etc. As it turns out, agriculture is not exactly the easiest process in the world, but they're an easy source of calories. So we developed a culture around grain eating. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, grains don't want to be eaten, and nature doesn't want its grains to be eaten. So it has put these components in the seeds, in the grains, that are basically punishment for the animal that's stupid enough to eat them, right? And that's what gluten is. Gluten is a plant defense mechanism. But the thing is, there's lots of plant defense mechanisms. Gluten is just one of these plant defense mechanisms. There's a whole complex of substances of phytochemicals called lectins, L-E-C-T-I-N-S, that are associated with digestive problems, with urinary tract problems, with arthritis and autoimmune diseases, etc. And these are another class of defensive compounds that plants make. There's a whole series of these things. What we call phytonutrients are many times actually plant defense chemicals. Plants are so smart, they will actually make birth control pills for the animals that eat them so that the animals won't have any more babies. The rabbits won't make baby rabbits to eat the animals. It's like they think generations ahead, a couple of generations ahead. We call these things phytoestrogens, for example. Phytoestrogens are plant defense chemicals that act as birth control. So the point is, plants make chemicals to keep animals from eating them and from eating their seeds. This is what gluten is, and this is what a lot of lectins are, and a whole bunch of other things. So you can't just say I'm gluten-free is the bottom line and expect to be healthy, because there's lots of other compounds in grains that can cause problems. So even if you're eating gluten-free brownies and gluten-free pizza and gluten-free beer and gluten-free burritos and gluten-free oatmeal, you're still not out of the woods. Oats are a grain, they're a seed, and so they have defensive chemicals, plant defensive chemicals that keep us, that will punish us at the digestive system level, at the joint level, at the immune system level for eating them. So are oats a good food? Well, there's wonderful nutrients in oats. Oats are a good source of protein. Oats are a good source of oils. Oats are a good source of vitamin E. Oats are a good source of B vitamins and minerals. So there's wonderful nutrients in oats, but the problem is you may have to pay the price for eating these defensive chemicals, these anti-nutrients, if you will. How do you know? You eat the oats and you see how you feel. It's as simple as that. And this is the problem I have with these blanket assessments on whether a food is a quality food or a good food or a bad food. You got to see how you react to that food. We want to start to become intuitive. We want to start to become aware of our body's responses to what we're eating. This is the problem I have with allergy testing, for example. Why would we go to an allergist, an allergy doctor, and have an allergy test done where they take some blood out of our system, they put it in a petri dish, and then they start to add foods to the blood in the petri dish to tell us what's happening inside our body? You can be the allergy test. We can be our own allergy test. And if I have one message, if there's one message that I want to spread on my radio program, in my presentations, through these videos, is that we have power over our bodies, and we have power to assess what's happening inside our bodies simply by being vigilant. So to cut to the chase, oats are potentially a great food. They're also potentially a problem food. You got to see how you do with it.
I sometimes think to myself that if a person is stumbling through the desert for several days and they haven't eaten, and they come across some fast food, some super processed fast food hamburger, that's going to be the best thing in the world for them.
Right.
It's terrible food, but in that circumstance, it's going to save your life.
Yes, just because, in one situation that food might be a problem, in another situation that food's a good food. But the bottom line is we got to see how we react, how our body responds specifically to specific foods.
I have a question. I'd be really interested to know how you react to this. Some people think about nutritional supplements as a medicine. Some people think about them as a food product. Do you have any sort of guidance?
Well, that's a great point because about 20 years ago, there was a movement, and there still is, kind of, a little bit anyway, where the government was trying to regulate nutritional supplements. I don't know if you remember this. It was the early 1990s. There was a big stink made, and they were going to regulate nutritional supplements. And finally, they came to a compromise, and they said, if something is found in a food, then it won't be regulated as a medicine. It won't be regulated by the FDA. And this is how today we can still buy nutritional supplements, even though, as I say, there's all kinds of movements afoot to regulate it. And in some countries, actually, there are some regulations that are in place around the dosages of vitamin C and other nutrients that you can get. But the point is, 20 years ago, it was decided that if something is found in a food, then it can't be regulated by the FDA as a drug. And this is how you can get supplements. So on the one hand, yes, these supplements are a type of food. But the problem is this. In nature, all of these compounds, these vitamins and minerals and things that we call nutrients, they're found together. They're complex together. And they're found in very small quantities. And this is really how we're supposed to get our nutrition. We're not supposed to have to supplement. I wish I didn't have to supplement. I wish everything was in the food and our food supply was pristine and the soils were loaded with minerals and we weren't using fertilizers and antibiotics and the water wasn't trash and the air wasn't trash. I wish we lived on a planet like that, and potentially someday maybe we will. We don't. We got to do what we got to do. And the way I look at it, and in my personal experience and in the experience of my patients, I've observed that when people get on vitamin C, when people get on vitamin A, vitamin E, vitamin K, vitamin D, essential fatty acids, minerals, we call them mighty 90 essential nutrients, their health conditions improve. Their health improves. They get off their medications. They lose weight. They eat less food. So with my own eyes, in addition to the research that I've done, and in my own personal life, I've seen too many wonderful, wonderful health turnarounds that occur when people start a nutritional supplement program for me to just, in a blanket way, say that nutritional supplements are a problem. That having been said, we're supposed to be getting everything we need from food. Those days are gone. That's just not going to happen. So, wishing doesn't make it so. We got to do what we got to do, and that's why supplement program, and the way I look at it, a supplement program, as tricky as it is to do, is very, very important, a very important part of good health. Does that answer your question?
That's fantastic. Absolutely answers my question.
Okay.
I think that's a great perspective in terms of the way that somebody thinks about their diet in a very broad sense. I imagine they can apply that sort of approach where you realize that your body is a machine that requires a certain set of nutrients in order to function optimally.
It's like this. Your car needs gasoline to run, right? Your car needs oil to run. Your car needs about 3 or 4 or 5 different kinds of fluid, water, etc., to run, right? Well, the body is similar but much more complex, so it needs 90 different types of gasoline and fluids and engine oil, etc., in order for it to do its work. And those are the 90 essential nutrients. The 90 essential nutrients are types of gasoline, but because the body is much more complex than a car, it doesn't just require 1 or 2 or 3 different kinds of fluids. It requires 90 different varieties of gasoline and fluids to run.
Something that I'm kind of curious about as well. There's one method of constructing a diet or conceiving or understanding of how you choose what to eat for yourself, which is to have a very controlled, prescriptive, this is exactly what I'm going to have at this time every day, sort of an approach. Count everything, count the calories, make sure that you eat X amount of X and Y amount of Y, or whatever it is. There's another approach which is more based on a more immediate sort of a thing, that you go into the kitchen and you feel like you want a certain something, and you might be able to ask yourself why, and you might be able to determine what it is. You may or may not be able to determine exactly what it is, as some people end up constantly eating something that they think's going to give them what they're after, but it isn't, and a lot of problems that happen that way. But my sort of approach has tended to be the latter, where I know that there's something missing. but I don't know what it is until I find it.
Right. So in other words, you have these cravings, but you can't identify them. Is that what you're saying?
Well, sometimes I can't identify them. Sometimes I can.
Okay, well, I'm not quite clear on what you're saying there, Jonty, but I think what you're asking me, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that there's one way to eat, like you just have rules to follow and in terms of timing and the types of foods, and there's another way where you just kind of respect your cravings and listen to what, if you crave salt, you go for salt. If you crave fruit, you go for fruit. If you crave bread, you go for bread, that kind of thing. Is that what you're saying?
You know, exactly. A banana is good for you, but if you always eat a banana every single day at exactly the same time, I tend to think that the body is an organic system. It's not.
Sometimes it wants a banana. Sometimes it needs the potassium. Sometimes it doesn't.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Now, well, obviously, that's the way to do it under ideal circumstances, is to listen to what your body wants. Now, I found in my experience, and again, that means not just my personal experience, but also the experience of my patients, there's three major cravings. You got the cravings for sweets, you got the cravings for oils and fats, and you got the cravings for salt. And all of those are fundamental cravings that we all have, and they need to be respected. A salt craving should be met by drinking Celtic sea salt water or Himalayan salt water, or making sure that you're getting your plant-derived minerals. I like the salts because they tend to be a little bit more satisfying. In fact, people are shocked when they see how unbelievably delicious something as simple as salt water can be, how unbelievably refreshing something as simple as salt water can be, how unbelievably energizing something as simple as salt water can be. And the thing about salt water is you don't eat very much. In fact, if you are like most people and you're salt deficient, and most people, or many people at least, are salt deficient, and you put a little bit of salt, Celtic sea salt, not Morton's, not table salt, but a good, well-rounded gourmet salt like an ocean salt or Himalayan salt, and you put it in water and drink it and sip on it, it's going to taste unbelievably delicious to you. And then, as you sip on more of it, it's going to taste less and less delicious less and less tasty, less and less delicious to you. And then you're going to reach a point where it doesn't taste good at all. And that's how you know you've met your salt needs. And if somebody were to put salty potato chips in front of your face, or French fries, or something you absolutely, under ordinary circumstances, couldn't stop eating, and you have met your salt needs, you're not even going to be able to eat those French fries. You have to force yourself to eat those French fries or those potato chips or corn chips or whatever it is. Likewise with oil. If you start to get enough essential fatty acids, if you get enough good fat, your body is not going to want the potato chip fat and the French fry fat and the pizza fat. And somebody will put an oily food in front of your face, or a fatty food that under ordinary circumstances you couldn't stop eating, and you're not going to want it. With sugar, what I found is there's a relationship between protein and sugar cravings. And the more protein you eat, the less sugar you're likely to eat. So between sugar and salt and oil, you have your three major cravings, and between protein and good quality salt like Himalayan salt or Celtic sea salt or an ocean salt, and a good quality oil like an essential fatty acid, like an essential fatty acid rich oil or essential fatty acid supplements, you can meet those three cravings without having to go with the pizza and the French fries, etc. And by the way, you'll notice that all our favorite foods are combinations of sweet and oil and salt. In fact, if you want to start a business and make a lot of money, go to some town that's never, go to some city that doesn't have a specific kind of food that's made up of salt and sugar and oil, and start selling it. You'll make a whole bunch of money. Donuts, French fries, pizza, tacos, burritos, hamburgers, everything that we love and that we crave are combinations of sugar and salt and oil.
The three cravings, that's excellent guidance, Ben. I imagine that being a wonderful tool for people to take into their own kitchens and into their own diets.
Right. More protein, more good quality salt, more essential fatty acids, and you'll take care of those basic cravings. In fact, there's some simple strategies that we can use around eating behavior that are, the way I look at it, more important than trying to decide what a good food is and what a bad food is. What a good food is and what a bad food is more of a question of how our bodies respond to that food. But there's some simple rules that we can all follow in terms of our eating behavior that are independent of specific foods. For example, eating less food, knowing when to stop eating food. It turns out that if we're really, really, really hungry, we can be filled with just a couple of bites. On the other hand, there's some times when we eat when we're not even hungry at all. We eat for social reasons. We eat for emotional reasons. We eat because we're depressed. We eat because we're bored. We eat because we like the flavor of things. You can meet your flavor needs by using spices. You can meet your flavor needs by using unsweetened candies. You can meet your flavor needs by by using vegetable juices with salt and with cayenne pepper or whatever your favorite spice is. So you can meet your flavor needs independent of calories. Eating less food is probably the #1 most important strategy around eating behavior, around diet that we can use. And even going so far as to do intermittent fasting. You know, fasting is an amazing health strategy. There's articles on WebMD and on Scholar.Google. These are research websites that talk about fasting for improving cancer, fasting for improving the effects of chemotherapy, fasting for reducing the symptoms of inflammation and autoimmune disease, fasting for energy, fasting for bodybuilding. So eating less food, practicing intermittent fasting, that's probably the most important strategy around eating behavior that you can use. Grinding your food up, making it easier for your body to absorb foods, making soups, making juices, making smoothies. It's, in essence, pre-digesting your food. This is especially important if you have IBS or ulcerative colitis or any kind of digestive problems, but for all of us. You know, eating less food, grinding your food up, making it easier, reducing the load, reducing the work that the digestive system has to do. Eating simply, eating foods that don't have a lot of working parts to them, staying away from foods that have long ingredient decks on them, eating foods where you can identify the components. You know, sushi, for example, has rice and has a piece of fish, and then maybe some onions or maybe some wasabi sauce, and that's it. Wasabi itself, it may be a little bit complicated, so you want to make sure that the wasabi is not a complex formulation. So eating simply. Here's another great one. Chew your food. If you chew your food, by the time it hits your intestine, it's already, in essence, pre-digested. It's kind of like making a soup or making a smoothie. When we chew our food, there are enzymes in the mouth, in the saliva, that actually help pre-digest the food, that help break down the food. You know, there's a phenomena in the world of fast food and fast food preparation called slip. Slip is the rate at which food slips down your throat. And fast food manufacturers know that the faster food slips down your throat, the more food you're going to eat, which tells you the harder it is to chew a food, or the more work it requires to chew a food, the less food you're going to eat. So something as simple as chewing your food can not only help you act as a pre-digestion act to pre-digest the food, but it will also, because it requires more work, it'll cause you to eat less food. Relaxing when you're eating. Remember, we have two nervous systems. We've got a stress nervous system and we have a relaxation nervous system. Doctors and medical folks call it the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. Well, the parasympathetic nervous system, the relaxation nervous system, is your digestion nervous system. We call it the rest and digest nervous system as opposed to the fight or flight nervous system. So making sure that you're breathing deeply, relaxing your body when you're eating, not eating when you're under stress, not eating when you're in the car, not eating when you're in an argument or a business meeting, or not eating when you're watching the horrible things that are happening on the news. Starting your meals off with fiber is another great strategy. Start your meals off with vegetables. The fiber will help fill up your stomach. You'll end up eating less food. Start your meals off with a celery juice. Make your own fresh celery juice in a Vitamix or a high-powered blender, and start your meals off with a bunch of celery juice, and you'll find you're eating a lot less food. Starting your meals off with something bitter, arugula or radishes. The bitters will stimulate bile and digestive juices and make it easier for you to digest your food. Drinking water with your meals. Some people will say, oh, it'll dilute your digestive juices. Well, it turns out that your digestive juices are going to be just fine with water. We're supposed to be drinking water, and there's water in our food anyway. So there's always going to be a certain amount of moisture, and the digestive juices are not going to be diluted very significantly by water. But what you will do is you'll fill up much faster, and you'll end up eating less food again if you're drinking water with your meals. In fact, it will actually support the action of digestive juices, because the digestive juices now will be will spread on the food more effectively. You'll have more volume, more liquid volume in your food. And by the way, as the food drops into your intestine from your stomach, it drops in as a soupy mass called chyme. And the more moisture or the more liquid is in that soupy mass, the easier it's going to be for that food to drop into your intestine from your stomach. This is one of my favorite digestive strategies: mixing oils with veggies. Mixing butter with veggies, for example, will help release the fat-soluble nutrients from the vegetables. The fat-soluble nutrients, the vitamin A and the vitamin E and the vitamin D and the flavonoids and the carotenes, the phytonutrients, the essential fats, all of these are fatty, And if you mix your vegetables with butter, and even if you use a little bit of steam, you'll release those nutrients and make it easier for your body to process them. This is especially important if you don't have a gallbladder or if you have a history of intestinal diseases or liver problems. All of these are very common. So mixing veggies with a little bit of butter or even a little bit of coconut oil can help release those nutrients. Also, steam can do that as well. Of course, using digestive enzymes with your meals, using a little bit of apple cider vinegar with your meals, this will also improve the digestive process. These are all easy to employ strategies that will not only improve digestion, but will allow you to eat less food so that you're not overeating, you're losing weight, and you're improving your health overall as well. Remember, most of the body's work is digestive work. Most of the blood that travels through the body is concentrated in the digestive system. Some 70 to 80% of the blood is concentrated in the digestive system. So the less work your digestive system is doing, the more work it's going to have to heal, to fight diseases, to anti-age, to build muscle, to do all of the good things. So not only will all of these strategies help you improve nutrition, but they'll allow you to eat less food, and then you'll have more resources available to do all the good stuff.
Fantastic, Ben. It's a wonderful piece of information. I'm starving now. I'm really hungry.
What do you want to do? What are you going to go eat?
It's time for lunch. Eggs.
Power food. Next time we should talk about power foods.
Okay.
Eggs are truly a power food.
Great, great. Well, I'm looking forward to it.